day 10 of the 2020 TooFatLardies Advent Calendar. Come with me into the grotto, and if we peep through the keyhole, there we will see Sidney sitting cross-legged under the tree, about to tell us about his best and worst war films of all time. Over to you, Sid.
This is so hard, making a list of the best and worst war films. There are just so many that you could choose from. And it's difficult choosing films because the best films aren't necessarily the films that you enjoy the most. And also the worst films may not be absolutely the worst films, but they're kind of the ones that maybe they annoy you more than the others. But I have narrowed it down slightly, and I've decided to go for the films on a very personal choice. Now I could pick out the films which I think are the best war films and the worthiest war films. There's films like Paths of Glory by Stanley Kubrick, starring Kirk Douglas, which is really a superb film, but it wouldn't really be my favourite war film. There's the Russian film Come and See, which is terrifying and horrifying in equal measure, and it's a fantastic film, but once you've seen that film, it's very, very difficult to go back to it. But for me, war films have to have certain things in them. They must be enjoyable, and they must be a great experience, and I really like them to be a spectacle, something that you really remember. And neither Paths of Glory or Come and See are really those kinds of films. But I really like the film The Duelists, which is set in Napoleonic Europe, and it's the story of two French cavalry officers who are bitterly engaged in these duels with each other in various locations throughout Europe. It's stunningly shot in absolutely beautiful tableau scenes. The acting is really excellent, and for anyone who likes the horse and musket period, it's absolutely a must-see. There are so many scenes in it which I've seen people who are other war games try to create in their games, in their miniatures, in their figures, and there's so many memorable sort of scenes by the director, Ridley Scott, who really burnt those scenes into your memory when you're seeing the film. Even the opening film the opening scene of the film, which opens with a girl leading geese into the French countryside or the German countryside, and she comes across the duelists preparing for their duel. It's a really, really memorable scene that you can hardly walk down a mist-shrouded path in that part of the country without remembering those scenes. There's an incredible duel in the cellar with the two protagonists in their sort of Hungarian hussar-inspired dress, hacking at each other with sabres. Really, really ferocious fighting, and the sound that the sabres are making is just so memorable that when you've seen the film, you sort of kind of remember it. It's almost like they're fighting with something as heavy as a kitchen implement rather than a foil. So that's a terrific film, and that would be right at the top of my favourite war films. But I also like the big spectacle, and when we say big, we really mean big. So the film Waterloo from the 1970s with Rod Steiger as Napoleon and Christopher Plummer as Wellington, that's just amazing. And I saw that really as a young boy, and really, really enjoyed that film. And it's just great to come back to it. I mean, it has all the cliches and all the little quotes in it, and it's not particularly brilliant history, but there are just so many iconic scenes, right from the ball behind the ball on the night of the battle, or night before the battle, the charge of the Scots Greys, Ney's charge against the English squares, and the final entrance into the battle of the French Imperial Guard. Every scene is beautifully curated, and it's a really, really memorable experience, which every time I discover the DVD at home, I just really want to put it on. And the third film out of this this trident of great films would have to be Where Eagles Dare, which is also possibly my worst film as well. I mean, it's just an unbelievable film. I can't believe anyone listening to the podcast hasn't seen Where Eagles Dare with Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood and Mary Ure, Peter Barkworth and all the rest of the cast. It's just crazy. I mean, I used to live in the 90s before I was married with a mate of mine called Roy. Roy claimed to have seen that film, I think, upwards of 50 times. He knew every single line. And when we watched it, he just used to come out with the lines, particularly the one which Darren Nesbitt comes out with as the SS officer, which were just ludicrously hilarious. Why do I love it? Well, it's just an amazing setting. It's beautifully shot. The action sequences are just incredible. Richard Burton's magnificent. And it's just great fun. Why is it the worst film? Well, I've never been able to go on a cable car without thinking of Peter Barkworth hacking at Richard Burton with an ice axe and then falling off. There was a cable car in Madeira which I went on with my wife and kids a few years ago, and the cable car started rocking and then halted halfway, and I thought, oh my god, I am actually in Where Eagles Dare. And also there's stupid bits about Clint Eastwood using his Schmeisser machine gun to just hack down upwards of 70 Germans. And Richard Burton, although he's magnificent, he's also just terrible in that film in other ways. It's just as if he's overacting and he hasn't even bothered to sort of really think about things. But how can you criticise Richard Burton? It's the best of films and it's the worst of films. So it's fitting, I think, to end up with Where Eagles Dare as my worst war film, but also very much, possibly my best war film.
Remember, lard is for life and not just for Christmas.